Okay, so jumping right in, today we are looking at AI and blockchain, and specifically some interesting stuff happening over on Solana.
So good.
We're going to be doing a deep dive into basically why you might want to think about launching your own AI token, especially on Tars.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that Tars is definitely one to watch right now, especially with everything they've been doing in this space.
Absolutely.
So yeah, what's caught your eye as you've been looking through this material? What stands out to you?
I think honestly, the thing that like immediately jumped out at me was like how easy they seem to be trying to make this whole process
Yeah.
of like tokenizing your AI agent, you
Yeah.
know? So like right away, the sources are pointing out that any AI agent you deploy on their market, it automatically launches on a native bonding curve.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that seems like a pretty big deal because it means you don't have to go through that whole like rigmarole of getting listed on centralized exchanges right away.
Yeah. Yeah, you're avoiding that initial step, and that's a huge barrier to entry for a lot of projects, right? Getting that early liquidity is so crucial.
Exactly. And it goes like even further because they're talking about this one-click agent deployment and what they're calling instant tokenization. Like you can apparently go from zero to a fully tokenized agent in under 5 minutes.
Wow, that's impressive. That speed is incredible. And I think it speaks to their focus on making this whole process as streamlined and accessible as possible. And it probably means we're going to see a lot more innovation, a lot more experimentation.
Totally. Yeah, like if you can just get your idea out there that quickly and see if it, connects with people, it's just going to accelerate things massively.
Absolutely. It lowers the barrier to entry for so many people.
Right. And I think what's also like really encouraging is that they're not just focused on speed, but they're also thinking about fairness.
Right. Yeah, it's one thing to make things fast and easy, but you have to ensure it's done fairly, especially in this space.
Exactly. So they have this fair stealth launch option where they're using some custom randomization algorithm
Interesting.
to like protect the launch from bots and, make sure that everyone has a fair chance.
Oh, that's smart. I like that. And I think that's going to be a big draw for developers. You don't want to
Yeah.
put all this work into something only to have it, gamed or manipulated right out of the gate.
Exactly,
I think,
exactly. And it's all like built right in. It's not something you have to figure out on your own.
yeah, that's great.
But what about like, let's say you're a developer and you're not quite ready to launch a token yet. You want to like build out your AI agent first, get some users, like really prove the concept.
Makes sense.
They have this thing called build now, tokenize later.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's a really interesting approach, and it actually aligns with what we've seen in other successful crypto projects, right? Where the focus is on building a solid product first, demonstrating utility, building that user base, and then introducing the token later on.
Yeah, yeah.
It can lead to a much stronger valuation and a more engaged community down the line.
And I guess it also like gives you time to refine your tokenomics and like really figure out how the token is going to fit into your the ecosystem of your agent.
Exactly, yeah. You have that breathing room to get it right.
So let's talk about reach for a minute
Okay.
because Tars is really positioning themselves as like, they're saying the gateway to Solana AI.
Yeah, they're aiming for a pretty broad ecosystem, right? Over 1 million Solana users is what they're aiming for.
Yeah, that's a huge potential audience.
And I mean, think about it. If you're launching on Tars, you're immediately tapping into that existing user base.
Right, they're already there and they're already active within the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah, you don't have to go out and, hustle to find your audience. They're already there, waiting to discover new and interesting AI projects.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of reach, I think launching on Tars gives you a huge advantage.
But what about like the tech side of things? What if you're a developer and you have a specific framework that you like to use?
Right. Are you kind of locked into using their proprietary framework?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, actually, and that's something I was really impressed by when I was reading through the material.
Okay.
They support a whole bunch of different frameworks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So obviously they have their own, which is called Sona, but they also support Akira, Solana Agent Kit, Eliza, and Rig. So you've got a lot of options.
Okay, that's good to know. So you're not limited in terms of what tools you can use.
No, not at all. And I think that flexibility is really important, especially for developers who are already familiar with certain frameworks. They can just, bring their existing knowledge and skills to the table.
Yeah, and it probably like speeds up development time, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you don't have to learn a whole new set of tools,
Hmm.
you can just focus on building your agent.
And speaking of, building trust, because like with AI, that's a huge factor.
Oh, yeah. Trust and verification, especially
Yeah,
when you're talking about, potentially sensitive data and automated processes.
exactly. So they talk about this proof of intelligence, POI, running on a T.
Yeah. A trusted execution environment.
Right. Can you like explain that a little bit? What's that all about?
Sure. So basically, a T is like a secure area within the processor of a device,
Okay,
and it's designed to protect the code and data that's running inside of it.
I see.
So in the case of TARS, they're using Ts to ensure that the proof of intelligence, the proof that the AI is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, that that can't be tampered with.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a way of like guaranteeing the integrity of the AI.
Exactly. Yeah, it's adding that extra layer of trust, which I think is really important for, widespread adoption of AI technology.
Absolutely. People need to be able to trust that these agents are like behaving as intended.
Right, exactly.
And, finally, we have to talk about memory because for an AI to be truly useful, it needs to be able to learn and remember things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about processing information in the moment. It's about building up that knowledge base
Hmm.
and being able to retrieve relevant information when it's needed.
Right. So they talk about conversational and documented Argo memory. What's that all about?
So RGAN stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Okay.
And essentially, it allows the TARS agents to be trained on a massive amount of data,
Hmm.
both, on-chain and off-chain.
Wow.
And then they can retrieve that information later on to inform their responses.
I see. So it's like giving them a really big brain, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crucial for developing more sophisticated AI applications, things like prediction, analysis, personalized interactions. All of that relies on the AI having access to a vast and well-organized memory.
So, okay, if I'm listening to this right now, what I'm hearing is that, like, there are a lot of potential benefits to launching an AI token on Tars.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, and I think it's something worth considering seriously if you're working in this space.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting, like, all of these different pieces, how they fit together. You've got the native launch with immediate liquidity, the super fast tokenization, the emphasis on fairness, the flexibility in terms of development timeline.
Right. And then you layer on top of that the access to a large and active user base within the Solana ecosystem.
Exactly. And then the support for various development frameworks, the focus on trust and transparency with the whole proof of intelligence thing, and then the powerful memory capabilities with RAG.
Yeah, it's a pretty compelling package, and I think it really speaks to TAR's vision for like a thriving and accessible AI economy on Solana.
Right. So I think the big question for the listener is like, how could all of these features, not just make it easier to get into the Solana AI space, but also how could they like unlock new possibilities for your AI project with its own token?
Yeah, and I think that's the exciting part, right? It's like we're just at the beginning of this whole AI and blockchain convergence,
Mm.
and it's really hard to say where it's all going to lead, but I think TARS is definitely, one of the platforms that's pushing the boundaries and creating a lot of exciting opportunities.
So much potential. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Always a good time.
Yeah. Until next time.